But assalamu alaikum, everyone. You probably heard of my voice a lot today. I was running around screaming, telling you guys to come into this room. My name is Zohaib. I run a company called Refunnel, and I also help with the Muslim Professionals Project. We might be on some sort of hit list or something to get shut down somewhere because we do a lot of these events where a lot of Muslims come through and we talk business, make friends, hang out, and do things like this. So thank you guys for coming out. So shout out to you guys. Today we got a pretty sick panel, I would say so myself. We have creators on stage, we have investors on stage, we have business owners on stage, and some people do all of the above. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have each person give a 1-minute intro, but I wanna dive right into it because a lot of people know these people already, and you guys have the bios and stuff on our website. So don't want to dwell on that too much. I really want to get into the nitty gritty of what you guys do, to be honest. So Farzi, if you could take it away.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. So my real name is Farzaam Aleem, but for those of you guys who see me on the internet, you know me as Farzi. Born and raised in Chicago, social media influencer. I'm just an entertainer at heart, but I would say, I think now I would kind of like define myself as somebody who, makes a career out of being constantly being a better Muslim. And that's just through my career and through my lifestyle. And that's, some things we could talk about, in this panel, but not really much to talk about. I'm just a regular guy, and I like to see myself as that and kind of like relate to everybody that I see. I love to talk. I love to communicate with people and just yap. And yeah.
Dope.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Mouyyad Abdulhadi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of PAX and Beneficia Coffee and head of growth at Provision Capital. PAX is a 7-year-old coffee company, now with 8, soon to be 9 locations, inshallah. That's not announced yet, but I think that's the first time I've actually said that in public like this. So 8, soon to be 9 locations. We have a growing D2C presence as well. And then on the Provision Capital side, invest in a lot of things, but my focus is early stage pre-seed startups to help Muslim founders and Muslim entrepreneurs grow. I personally love mentoring and guiding and helping people avoid the pitfalls that I've gone through over the last 5-6 years, because I guess our CEO says that you see a lot of train wrecks, and we're just trying to help people avoid those train wrecks. So if anybody needs help, I'm here.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Fadwa Hilili. I'm the owner of Fadwa Masala. It's the first all-natural masala line that is salt-free, sugar-free, and red chili powder-free. And before that, I was a recipe content creator. And before that, I was a CPA, and I still work in corporate America in finance and internal audit. And I'm based out of Tampa.
Hi guys, I'm Maryam Ishtiaq. I am a founder and CEO of It's Actually, a halal bone broth brand here in Dallas, Texas. We ship nationwide. Before that, I've been in the content creation side of things for the last 10 years. And prior to that, I come from the startup space. So I've worked in food and I've worked in tech. And some of you may recognize me from my recent journey into culinary space as a chef. And so I've worn many, many hats over the years, and I take pride in each one of those journeys that I have taken on. And yeah.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Riaz Surti. Assalamu alaikum. And I own a company called Hearthy Foods. We're a supplement brand. We sell collagen, creatine, whey protein, bone broth, and we have some, I guess we have a little booth out there, and you're welcome to come by and taste some of our products. We have some marshmallows for samples. Yes, assalamu alaikum.
His marshmallows are pretty delicious, I'm not gonna lie. My favorite ones, they're the s'mores with the graham cracker on the inside, and guess what? They're gluten-free. So if you have celiacs, check them out. So we're gonna kick it off, all right? We have some really cool interesting faces that you probably have seen on social media, like Farzaam, Fadwa, and Maryam. So I wanted to kick it off with you three. Y'all got into the content creation game pretty early, but you guys were planning on other careers, right? So what I wanted to ask you guys is, what made you get into content creation, and how are you like leveraging content to build upon the next chapter for each of your career paths? So I'll let
Let the
Maryam,
ladies go first.
Yeah, Maryam, take it away.
So for me, content creation wasn't something that I always looked forward to. I guess for me, it was something that right place, right time. You know, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I moved to New York City, and it was like the right time, right place. Got into content creation simply because it was a Southern girl living in the new city, and people are suddenly interested in your life, and things kind of picked up. And then I was just getting a lot of brand deals, so I kind of got stuck into like this whole beauty and fashion. So you know, I worked with CoverGirl, L'Oreal, Maybelline, and you could just name all these big brands. I have worked with them. But you know, over the years, I was still working. Content creation wasn't really a full-time thing for me. It was more of something that was a creative outlet. I was able to share the brand deals. I was able to share my journey into New York City. I was able to share my love for food. And while that was happening, I was actually a creative consultant for startups. And so I was helping them build out their content strategies and their social media and digital media strategies to implement through their brands. And then I realized I was a content creator on outside of work, but that I'm also creating strategies for other people at work. It's too much for me, and so I pivoted and went into food. I was head of creative for a food startup. It was a baby food startup in San Francisco, and I worked there for a year and a half, and still realized the marketing part is just too much. Everything is kind of meshing together. I need to kind of create separation between my career and what I do outside of work. So pivoted and went into sales and marketing strategist for a tech startup, and it was a corporate gifting platform based out of Austin, Texas. And again, marketing is still like a big part of who I was. I was building a brand, personal brand outside, building a brand for other people. And then I said, I need to do something that something that I want to take on as a project that I've never done before. And at the same tech startup, they actually had a head of e-commerce position that was available. I've never done e-com. I didn't know jack crap about it, and it was a thing that I was willing to learn, actually, right? Like, I take on projects and I'm like, I want to learn. I am hungry for learning more things. And I was a head of e-commerce for about a year, and I created their entire e-commerce side of the business. And then after I had my first baby, I quit my job and I went into creating my own business, which is It's Actually. And everything that I've learned prior to that is now being implemented into a startup that I get to fully own and build from scratch. And my love for food has come back, so I'm also a chef, and it kind of really helps me get into hospitality and then also build a brand in the CPG space. Sick.
And Fadwa, you cook a lot of food, so I want to really get into what got you into, one, the Pakistani food, right, and then two, the spice stuff while being a CPA.
Yeah, so I, being a content creator, becoming a content creator was not really something I ever thought that I would do. Mm-hmm. I worked in corporate America for the last almost 15 years. I'm a CPA, always worked in finance, internal audit, accounting type roles, very boring, kind of stuff, but I always enjoyed it. And then I always loved to cook, though, and I've always cooked Pakistani food. I have extended family from Pakistan, so that's how I learned, Pakistani food.
Shout out Pakistan.
Yeah, yeah. So
I give my life for Pakistan. That's great.
Pakistan's in the boat.
Sorry, Farzaam and Riaz, my bad.
So yeah, I just would cook for my family, and one day I had a friend who encouraged me, like, hey, your recipes, like, they look so good. I would send my friends pictures just for fun. Why don't you post recipes? So I posted a pulao recipe, beef pulao. It got some views. And then I posted a beef biryani recipe, and it got 5 million views. And I was shocked. I never thought.
That beef biryani recipe was good.
Oh, thank you. I
love
appreciate
the
that.
slow. I like the one pot biryanis that you do.
Thank
because
you.
It does
Makes it easier, right?
It makes it way easier.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, it's a good
There's
recipe.
traditionalists in this room right now that are just like Zohaib, like you should go.
I post
like,
plenty of
shut up.
traditional recipes, but I like to do the instant pot stuff, things that make it easier for busy moms to cook. Like my sister, has 2 kids, and she's married to a Pakistani, so she really needs those easy recipes, right? So I got known for giving very clear instructions and teaching people how to cook. Then from there, in my videos, I would always use masala packets. So I would use Shan masala. And that's just how I learned how to cook, right? But people would leave me comments like, oh, there's so much sodium in these packets. They're so unhealthy. They're so spicy. Like, I don't want to cook with this. So I got to thinking, like, is there any healthy masala out there that I can use in my videos? And there wasn't any line out there that was, salt-free, sugar-free. I started doing research and I found out like what is actually in the masala packets that exist. And there's a lot of artificial ingredients in them, a lot of things that aren't necessarily good for you.
EDTA and all that.
Well, there's a lot of sugar. There's,
All those sus ingredients that you can't pronounce.
And gluten.
There's gluten in them. There's soy. I mean, like the 9 allergens are in them. So I figured, I'm like, I could create something. So on Thanksgiving Day in November of 2024, I had the idea. And then I started doing my research. And 3 months later, we launched Fadwa Masala with 5 SKUs. And it took off. I just did organic marketing on social media, and people really liked the concept. I think people are looking for healthier options. And alhamdulillah, we've been in business a little bit over a year. And we have 23 SKUs.
Nice.
So, and I still work in finance, so I'm doing both full time.
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna really dive deep into the business side. I want to hold that one piece where she's talking about the SKUs and all that stuff, because Riaz and Mouyyad have worked on different products for a long time too. So when we get to that portion of this, it's gonna get pretty intense. So all the business people here, be ready to listen, because these guys have all scaled their businesses and they're scaling them really fast. So Farzaam, I wanted to ask you, what was that inflection point for you to get into the content game? Because you were just in college a few years ago.
Yeah, so it's actually crazy because I probably have like a very, a much different approach to it than everyone here, because I actually never worked a corporate job. And so I started making content just for the sake of just like having fun. Like it wasn't really like, it wasn't really much of like a reason beyond just honestly just doing things as a college kid. I'm bored in the dorm, don't really know what to do with, with my life. And just, why not just make content that could make people laugh? It makes me laugh. So why not just try and make other people laugh? And that's kind of just, the way it started. And it's actually very admirable to see you guys build something, without the necessity of, building content or creating. You guys were able to create your own businesses and build something for yourself in that endeavor, because, I think every single content creator that starts off, as a creator, they always want to build a business right after. And then every business owner wants to become a content creator after. And so it's like, I think we all have a lot to learn from each other. And I think it's very beautiful. But as a content creator, it's really interesting because, I've done a lot of these talks, and what's so interesting to see is like so many people think that what I do is so special, unique, when it's really not the case. Like every single person that I talk to that's a content creator, I'm just like, wait, you're literally just another regular guy just like me. Mm-hmm. Or, just a regular person. And so I think like what's so beautiful about the time that we live in right now is there's so much opportunity to make a name for yourself, to build a legacy without the necessity of being so different. Yeah. I mean, anybody can do it. And it's really, I think, the one key point, and you asked me the question, like, what made me start? I wanted to have fun. Yeah. I think that's like when you start a business, it's like you want to solve an issue, right? Like everybody sees a problem, a personal problem they're like dealing with, and like I want to help myself, but also help others. And then, that's the reason why they start the
I guess
business.
that was the problem. You were like, hey, I noticed people aren't laughing as much as they should be.
Nah, it wasn't like that.
Right?
I just wanted to have fun, bro. I'll be honest with you.
All right.
I just wanted to have fun, No, but what I'm trying to say is like it comes from just like a personal point where it's like I'm doing this for my sake. Like I'm doing this for something that's very just like special to me, like whether or not just to, be entertaining or to just, fix something that I'm dealing with or I'm struggling with. But what I realized is as I continued scaling in the content creator space, there's two ways that people can, go about this, which I find so beautiful about who we are as people, as Muslims, because there's only one path and it's the right path. But for other people, there's two. And it's really hard to figure out which way to go. Either I take the path that can potentially earn me more money right now, more clout right now, but I have to sell my soul, bro.
Yeah.
Or I realize that the money, the clout, the fame, the business, none of the things I'm actually working towards even matters. And as I continued scaling up with creating more different types of content, building businesses on the side end, trying to couple the business with my content, trying to see what I can do to continuously make a name for myself, I realized if the purpose of doing this was to not actually please Allah, then it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And every time I was like, you know what? I don't even care about going viral. I don't even care about making money. Wallahi, I don't even care if my career just tanks. I care about putting in effort. And it's like, that's the only thing that matters. I just want to focus on effort. But then the intention behind the effort is to please God. And I swear to God, wallahi, that was the turning point. And every leg up in business and in content, every time I made the decision to just literally flip the switch, my intention is literally to just please Allah. In any way, shape, or form, it doesn't matter. Just to please Allah. He put this thing called barakah in the work that you do. It might not come in the success you see physically, but in the feeling you get to be able to live the life that you want to live prosperously, regardless of how much money is in your account, how many people come up to you and want to take pictures. You feel that presence of peace.
Yeah.
And wallahi, that's the biggest and most beautiful lesson I ever learned being able to be a content creator, is that when you decide to live life for the sake of Allah, doing the things that you love, that Allah put in your heart, you truly grasp what freedom feels like.
Yeah, you and a lot of the content creators you work with, you guys took a big risk, obviously after October 7th, to keep pushing that content and speaking on what atrocities were going on, etc. Like you guys could have been blocked. I mean, people were getting shadow banned left and right, and all of your income could have gone away, but you guys kept doing that. So I want to give a quick shout out to you guys, like seriously. Without people like Farzaam, Faizi, and a lot of the other content creators that are in the room, like if you guys didn't speak up, we wouldn't have gotten word out. And I work in a space where there's like barely any Muslims in it. And Maryam, Mouyyad, Fadwa, and Riaz know that. Like we work in that space. Very hard for us to make a name for ourselves out there. So that's where I'm gonna pass over the conversation to Mouyyad and Riaz. I want to ask you guys both have brands like Pax and Beneficia. You have Hearthy Foods. Both you guys have customers that are non-Muslim, okay? So I want to know what are your strategies on how you guys are still marketable as a business to non-Muslims?
Oh, I love this. So when we started Pax and Beneficia, we were very intentional about how we built the brand. Pax and Beneficia, if you don't know, means peace and blessings in Latin, which is something the Imam says on every Friday Jummah. But when they ask, they're like, oh, peace and blessings. Oh, yeah, I'm Christian, that matters to me. Or, oh, I'm Jewish, that matters to me. But we're like, no, it's Muslim, right? So, but it wasn't in your face. It wasn't anything that we said when you walk in. It was like, yeah, here's our Wi-Fi password, just say ashhadu, just kidding. But it was very, very, very subtle. And that's how we built our entire brand. frankly, we didn't build it for a Muslim audience. Right now, if you go to any Pakistan Beneficia, it's probably about 15 to 20% Muslim audience. But we've had multiple people come and approach me. We've had a barista have shahada from our location, which to me, if that's the only thing that comes out of Pakistan Beneficia, then alhamdulillah was a success. But there's other sides to that too. After October 7th, right, as a brand that we intentionally decided to stay neutral about everything, not just Palestine. As a Palestinian, it was very hard to not say anything as a brand. But we stayed on that path. And I remember in one of our locations, a guy comes in with an Israeli hat. And I looked and I was like, oh, this guy's here. This is very interesting. He doesn't know we're Muslim owned. He doesn't know we're Palestinian owned. But guess what? I'm going to take that check and I'm going to multiply it by 10 and I'm going to donate it to PCRF. So the message here is, and I think we were talking, me and Bidget were talking about that earlier. By the way, if you don't know Bidget, if you have IT needs, like he's right there in the second row. We're talking about how to be intentional about certain things. And as Muslims, I think we always default to the things that we know, right? We don't need another, I mean, like this is being recorded, so I don't know who's recording, putting it online, but we don't need another Muslim prayer app. We don't need another Muslim adhan app. We need things that we are able to show other people who we are by the ihsan and the work we do, and that's the best form of da'wah. Then it doesn't matter what happens in the world. We have a defensibility because we have put the best foot forward and the best product forward. And I think that's the only way we move forward as an ummah is by putting our best foot forward, and not just for Muslims, for everybody. And that's something that we try to do at Pakistan Beneficia.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hearthy Foods is a brand that I think 99% of my customers are not Muslim. And my goal was to not even name it like an Islamic name. I wanted to give it a generic name. And Hearthy, it basically stands for Heart, Earth, You. Okay, and it's something I could trademark. And so it's really, and then our brand basically is about the highest quality at the lowest price, you know, to make wellness for everyone. So to give you an example, I sell creatine on Amazon, and I sell for like $9.99, $10, right? So, okay, and that's about, we sell about 100,000 units a month on creatine, just being a disruptor on price on that product, right? So
I'm a customer. Huh? Your creatine is good.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know? And then what I try to do as far as strategy-wise, my goal is to, I have my own facility, so I'm able to pack it, and basically pack my own products and be able to cut my costs down on that. Okay, and I think I started doing halal collagen and halal gelatin in around 2017. Okay, and this was way before, you know, I remember when I met my vendor who I was buying collagen from, and I asked him, how come no one's doing halal collagen, and why do you have certification for it? He said, you're the first person has ever asked for it. Okay, and I remember 2017, I bought my first pallet from him, and I told him, you know, and I think I paid premium for that pallet, right? Okay, and then and I remember like, you know, I bought my first pallet, okay, and then I had no intention to sell it to Muslims. It was just my own personal reasons while I was doing halal. And if you know my story a little bit, my mother, she had, you know, no access to like high quality supplements, halal supplements, right? So like I remember like I really started this company out of love for my mother, basically, you know? So like there's no halal bone broth, there's no halal collagen, no halal gelatin. In fact, I remember gelatin is the most, when you see gelatin on candy, you would think this is pork-based, right? So, okay, and I want to solve that problem as well. I want people to know that there's beef gelatin available, halal beef gelatin. So like, okay, and anyhow, so as far as my customers, right, it was mainly non-Muslims, and I want to be at the lowest price possible. I want to be the highest quality, and I remember around 2021, I think we're the first halal product to hit #1 on Amazon.
Wow.
It was gelatin,
Congrats.
right? So, alhamdulillah.
Shout out to you.
And
I wanted to touch on that mom part because you just said you did it for your mother. We have a mother on stage right now, Maryam. I was like, it's not me.
She's an amazing mom.
But how many moms are in the room right now? Awesome. And shout out to all the moms. And I wanted to just touch on, so Maryam, you're a mom. You started a business after you had your kid. How was that experience like?
So for me, it wasn't actually the fact that I was going through a pregnancy per se, but it was more so the postpartum recovery. And the reason we started was during postpartum, I had my cesarean and I went into the ward to recover, and I asked for bone broth because you can't have actual food, right? You have to drink liquids. And the nurse is very excited to bring me like the best thing they have in the Trinity, their triage, and that's like, I'm thinking that this is a cafeteria downstairs that's making some broth and I'm about to get the best of the best. But they actually come up and she brings me a cup of hot water and she brings me a packet. And it had 30 grams of sodium. And for me, that was alarming because if you are coming out of a surgery and you're expected to...
Wait, 30 grams?
30 grams.
Not milligrams?
No. It was very salty and it was bad. And this is something that's a concentrate. You're not supposed to be giving a concentrate to begin with in a triage.
Yeah.
And so, she gives me a cup and you can't dilute it. It's a concentrate. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I cannot believe this is something that what we have to resort to. And so I started thinking to myself, and I'm like, if, you're expecting somebody to come out of a surgery and you want them to recover, and then you're pumping them with sodium, and then you're saying, good luck to you. That's not how it's supposed to be. But then what ended up happening was at that same time, we were experiencing a lot of people that were going through chemo and radiation, and they were experiencing something similar where their hospitals didn't have halal broth, right? They were getting these concentrates and they have to just resort to that because that is what's available to them, or they'll resort to like a vegetarian option. And I'm like, why is that? Why aren't we kind of going into healthcare and putting a best product forward? And so that was what was a catalyst behind us wanting to do halal bone broth and doing low sodium. We're currently the broth that has the lowest amount of sodium in the broth, and 80% of our customers the first year were cancer patients who would send us messages and would send us emails saying like, this is the first thing that I was able to hold down after my radiation. And that meant so much to us, like, hey, maybe this is our calling. Maybe this is what we're meant to do in terms of halal CPG space, is that we're supposed to make their recovery easier, the same way that I was able to make my recovery easier.
That's amazing. So Farzaam and Fadwa, you guys both started off as content creators because you just were doing it for fun, right? Fadwa, you had a huge experience in just Pakistani culture and food, and you wanted to create content around that solely. There was no idea to create a business. Same with you, Farzaam. You were making content for fun, just to have, entertaining videos for yourself, for your friends, and then it exploded. Both you guys exploded essentially overnight. I see both your videos on my feed, For You page, before I even met either of you.
It took a long time for me to explode, bro.
Well, it blew up.
Like 2 years.
Yeah. So a lot of consistency, and I wanted to touch on that. What was your journey as content creators to get to where you guys are both at now? And how are you dealing with some of the things that happen, whether it's brand deals, whether it's, DMs from all these businesses, or even just like hate comments online? Because people know that you guys are Muslim. You guys are pretty public about it. So I'll let Farzaam take it and then Fadwa follow up.
So I think refining your intentions is so important because it's the foundation of why you do everything you do in life. When you make the intention to create and it's so purposeful behind what is truly like within your core, it is an automatic protection, like this barrier against any evil that can come in your way. Because I'll tell you this, you know how they say like, yo, money is the root of all evil? I don't believe that. It's the people who are giving you the money, right? Because I've gotten deals, 6-figure deals to do gambling brand deals, where it's like all I gotta do is just have the app in the video just for like a few seconds. 6 figures like that, right? Anybody, it's like, think about it. Like, think about how easy, if I wasn't Muslim, I would have snatched that brand deal like this, bro. Yep. Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah for Islam, bro. Because I know what actually matters. Because if I was making the content and my intention was just to make money, my journey would be everywhere, you know? Yeah. I'd be in parties where there's drugs and girls and parties and everybody just going and having fun. Having fun is the real thing, but it's not. That's not fun. That really isn't, because it's like, where is it going to take you at the end of the day? Everyone's, you know, lost in that space. And so when you make the intention to do it for the right reason, it's actually very easy to get away from the hate, to ignore the hate, to ignore the bad opportunities. And that's what was such a huge like learning curve for me, because there was a lot of moments that when I was a content, or when I would, you know, create content, I would try anything. You know, I had that growth. I wouldn't say that my iman was at a high, like, you know, it's you know, the way that Allah has created us is we become elated and then we also contract in our iman. Mm-hmm. You know, it's normal. It's because it's a test. But the goal as a Muslim is to essentially make that oscillation as little as possible.
Get closer to baseline.
Get closer to baseline. And so, you know, when I first started making content, Allah protected me, because when I had 1 million followers in 6 months, but it took me 2 years to get to 100,000 followers. And in those 2 years, I tried everything. If I blew up in those first 2 years, and I got like that brand deal that would come in, hey, you know what, go and just promote this gambling brand deal, do this, this dating app or whatever it is, I would have taken it. I don't care. Yeah, it's money. I would have probably said alhamdulillah to that. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I didn't know what I was talking about. I wasn't knowledgeable.
How old were you when you hit that?
So I'm 24 right now. I got to 100,000 when I was 21, so 3 years ago. Yeah, so 3 years ago. So alhamdulillah,
if I was at that age, I'd probably take that deal like an idiot.
I think anybody would, bro. Yeah. Anybody would. But subhanAllah, you know, I think everything is here written for a reason. And this is the biggest thing, right? Is like what I've learned in these 5 years of creating, in these 5 years of being independent, in these 5 years of truly giving my whole faith to Allah. Like straight up, it's like, yo, there are months where it's like, I don't know how much money I'm gonna make. I don't know how I'm gonna pay the bills. Allah got me though, you know? And so in the biggest lesson that I learned in these 5 years, or one of the biggest lessons, I shouldn't say the biggest, is that through this oscillation of, feeling enlightened and then feeling contracted, is every single time you focus on the now and you just make your intention right now to do good. I know I keep repeating this, but if you make the intention to do good right now, Allah will protect you from being in situations that can lead you astray no matter how high your iman is. Because I have friends in the content space that were way more religious than me. I don't like using that word religious, by the way. It's like the way more like practicing, I guess, than me. And they're in this space and they're lost now. You know, subhanAllah, bro.
Lost in the sauce.
It's all written, bro. It's all written, but it's like I believe that Allah has created multiple paths for us. We get to choose with our free will which path we decide to take. And in every second of our life, even if we're taking the right path, we can always take a U-turn and turn the other way, because that's the test. And so to fight against all the tests that Allah puts in our life, even with building a business, bro, like dude, I've gotten opportunities to work with partners with millions and millions of dollars on businesses that had nothing to do with building the ummah. Forget even about building the ummah, with building my own deen, bro.
Yeah.
Like nothing, bro. It's like, bro, if you work on this business, you invest in this company, you take a small portion of this, and I'm not gonna say what, but it's like, you know, these are all like just companies that are not good for humanity. It's like, you just even take 5%. I mean, these are multi-million dollar businesses, companies.
Yeah.
You know,
And
I would be chilling.
I wanna touch on the investment part, right? That one part in a little bit with Mouyyad and Riaz, because you guys have very successful businesses and you guys both invest in a lot of businesses. Really quick, by the way, if anyone's trying to go to the Cullum panel, I got this note like 3 times and I kept ignoring it. But if you want to go to the Cullum panel, it has started in Windhaven room. They requested. So, Fadwa, you're also a creator and you had a lot of challenges obviously through the way. I wanted to just touch on your story a little bit as well.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting what you're saying. I think that the entrepreneurial journey is glamorized in a way. Like I said, I still work my full-time job. And maybe maybe you don't see a lot of purpose in your corporate job, or you think it's soul-sucking. But it provides me a level of stability where I'm able to grow my business sustainably. And at the same time, I don't have to just take any brand deal because I'm not, desperate for making money as a content creator, right? So I'm able to stick to my values and choose what I want to do. I don't think there's anything wrong with working a corporate job, even if maybe it's not what you want to do forever, right? But I don't recommend just jumping ship and pursuing an endeavor without, testing the market first, which is kind of what I did, right? Like I started very, very small. Like Fadwa Masala, we started with 1,500 units. And, I worked on it on weekends, at night to get it launched. And then I was able to say, okay, people have an interest in this product. And I was able to grow. So every time we restock more and more and more, and I'm growing the business that way. But everything is a challenge, right? Working a corporate job is a challenge. Building a business is a challenge. Nothing that's really worth it is going to be easy. So you have to think about what is my goal here? But I will say that now that the business, we're 1 year in, I think the greater purpose for me is about really serving the community. I want to do as much as I can because there were so many people that, helped me along my journey, and being able to do the same thing for other founders and people who are interested in becoming a founder, or maybe they want to be a creator. Like that's where I think that my greater purpose is going to lie.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to remind all 4 or 5 of you guys on stage is like, you guys motivate me. You guys are motivating a lot of people in this room and a lot of people on the internet that look like you, believe in the same beliefs that you guys have and the values and morals. Because I'm telling you guys, like I work with over 1,000 brands in my company, and some of these people are finding the shadiest ways to make money, and they don't look like you guys. They don't have the values that you guys have, and they get ahead really, really quick. So just wanted to, really like praise you guys on that, because it's hard. That money is so easy to make and to get rid of your values. And the fact that you guys have all chosen, a path where it's like, you know what, we are going to take it slow and steady. We don't need to make that money right away. It's not about the money. It's actually, we're doing this with the intention of pleasing Allah first. And I think, honestly, those are the more sustainable businesses that are out there. I mean, some of the longest lasting businesses share those values, whether they're Christian, Jewish, or Muslim. Like, there's a value system behind them, right? So Mouyyad and
Wait, can I just make a point real quick? I also want to agree that I'm not saying to jump ship if that was like what I was like intending for. Like I also agree with you that you shouldn't just like be be ignorant to actually investing time into thinking what's the right decisions to make.
Yeah, I think
I just wanted to make that clear about it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to provide the practical side of it,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
I think it's great that mashallah, that you're able to just, do what's completely aligned with you, right? I think that's great.
Well, I also think you're doing the exact same thing. Like you're doing everything that's aligned with you. I think that everybody is different. Some people genuinely will operate better when they take bigger risks. Like one of my friends, he's also a content creator, and he's built multiple businesses, especially in the crypto scene. He's garnered like millions and millions of dollars and has gone from millions of dollars to zero, like straight up zero, to where he's like, yo, can I borrow $1,000? Like straight up. And I could never operate like that. I think it's like different for each person, but at the end of the day, like I think doing what is very much so aligned with you for the right purpose is, and whatever that looks like physically, right? Work a job, not do a job, whatever it is, I think that's what's important. It's just aligning with yourself. But yeah, I just want to make that clear. Like, how people didn't,
Like I think there's a safe level of delusion, you have to have when you starting a business.
You can
like
take a
Maryam.
calculated risk, right?
Yeah.
You know,
like
you
Maryam,
have a good
had
idea.
kid
Make
and
sure,
you're like, YOLO.
make sure it's a good idea.
Of course.
Like, let me start a business and put stress on myself.
Yeah.
like that's the thing. I had a secure job. I was working it on the side at an agency, and then I was like, yeah, you know what? I kind of hate my boss. I'm gonna quit. But then I ended up working like triple the amount that I was working, which was a very delusional thing at an economic standpoint. My wife is still like, yo, Zoe, like, when are you gonna make that money? You told me that, we were gonna be financially secure. I'm like, one day, Medea, just trust me. Haven't figured it out yet. But Mouyyad and Riaz, I wanted to ask you guys again about that investment stuff. So Mouyyad is an investor, if you guys didn't know, and Riaz is a very successful, long-lasting business, actually multiple-time entrepreneur. He actually sold a company to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. Is that correct? Yeah, so I wanted to ask you two, how do you navigate, where to make that next investment and what's the mindset behind it? I get the whole, we talked about, hey, you have to have the focus of Allah and we got to please Allah, but I really want to understand, at a business standpoint, right? What kind of makes your heart start racing? Yo, that's a deal I want to put some money into.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I bought my first restaurant when I was 18 years old. It was I was failing high school when I was a kid. I was 16. And I told my dad, can you please help me? I'm failing high school. Okay. And my dad said, go get a job at the local KFC down the street. And I think my dad was a CPA, just like Fadwa is, right? And I came from a maybe higher income family, right? Okay, and so my dad said, go get a job at KFC down the street, and I maybe with the intent that I would try harder in school. Okay, so I got this job at KFC, and I loved that job. Okay, and I just had a good time making biscuits and putting cash in the cash register, right? So, and then at 18, I told my dad, this restaurant's for sale. Can you please buy it for me, right? Okay, and then my dad, CPA, looked at the numbers and he bought the restaurant for me. And something crazy happens. My dad dies a month later. Okay, and I remember when my dad had died, I remember it was very clear to me that there was no plan B for me. I just knew at that moment that no one was going to save me financially. And I think when you have that mentality, that there's no safety net, there's no parachute, in some way, I think that it puts you in a different position, right, in life, right? So, okay, and then
I feel like you get into an athletic mindset almost, right?
It's a mindset of either sink or swim, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just to continue I'm trying to answer your question. So, okay. But what happened was when I remember, I was the first person ever started doing halal. If you ever grew up in the 80s and 90s, like I remember in LA, in the 90s, the only thing that was available that was halal was desi food. But I remember when I started doing halal KFC, we're talking about 1990, 1991, right? And I'm talking about full on the menu, and I also had halal Taco Bell as well. Okay, so if you grew up in LA in the 90s, everyone knew my franchises. I was the first person to ever do it, right? And what I did was I vertically integrated. I bought my own USA facility, and I'll be able to supply my own restaurants with halal KFC and halal Taco Bell. Okay, and I remember kids, back there were so happy, and I was maybe 21, 22, 23 years old when I started doing that, right? And then, and I got a call, this is maybe 10 years later, I get a call from KFC saying that I need to discontinue the halal food program. Okay, and I remember I told my mom, this is, I don't want to be involved with KFC anymore. So that was my exit for that, right? Okay, and then my second company was doing samosas for Whole Foods and for Costco, for Trader Joe's, right? Okay, and I was the first person to ever bring Indian food products to market, right? Okay, and then I remember getting, when I got the Trader Joe's contract, okay, and I think it was just too big for me at the time, right? And it was actually a company called, you heard of Deep Foods? Deep?
I buy their naan.
Yeah, they're the one
Yeah.
that bought my company out. Okay, the samosa business, right? So, okay, and they were buying the company not because of the sales at the time. They were buying it because of the distribution I had, and I really undersold the company. I didn't know the distribution was so valuable, and that's how they got the Trader Joe's contract. Okay, so what happened? Okay, and then my third company was doing gluten-free desserts for Vaughn's, Safeway, Albertsons, and Whole Foods. Okay, and this was when gluten-free was not that good back then. And alhamdulillah, I sold that company to an investor group that was, I think, a part of Mrs. Smith's and Marie Callender's, I think it was, right? So, okay, and then the Hearthy Foods was started in 2019. And but to answer your question, why I sold is because ultimately is I sold because I wanted to. I just knew in my heart, especially with the halal KFC, that was when they said I could discontinue the halal food program. That really was a major indicator for me to sell. So I hope.
So it was like a heart. You just feel it. Like it's like an
Yeah, that's a
intuition,
good point,
right?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah, I would say it's something you feel. In
Maybe
your
the
heart.
numbers actually, like, you know, from your dad, right? Like they're actually, it's in your blood. And you feel it, but you're just like, I don't want to put pen to paper. And so you just figure it out.
Alhamdulillah.
Sick. So Mouyyad, I want to ask you, like, what you're an investor. You're writing seed checks to people. Like, what kind of makes you, like, what tickles your fancy? You know?
Yes. Great questions.
I gotta wake you guys up.
Yeah,
You guys are on your phone.
Yeah, so I'll get a little bit more tangible. So I think everyone, I think I've had multiple conversations today about like how AI has changed everything. And so like AI rappers don't really tickle my fancy, to put it in your terms. But I think there's two things that I think about a lot, which is the physical and stuff that supports the physical, meaning that at the end of the day, we're all humans. And with the world moving the way it is with technology, the human connection is the most important part. And a lot of, by Farzaam and Fadwa talked a lot about intentionality and kind of our DNA and why we're doing what we're doing. So I think when I look at a founder, are they building something tangible? And are they building something to support the tangible? And are they building something to support the human connection? Whatever that may be. I think that's the only way to move forward as a society as well, because again, technology is going to replace everything. So then what's left is just us on the stage, and having that. So that's kind of what I look for is founders that, one, have an understanding of their market, two, they have a distribution strategy, and three, they have the focus as well, because it is very hard to build, and it's getting a lot harder to build and scale, and if they have that resilience, which is the name of the panel, then I think that's what we'd invest in.
Awesome. I think that's like the perfect way to close out the panel, because it's called the resilience panel. I wanted to open up to Q&A. All right. So if anyone has a question, I'm going to come down to you. I'll bring the mic and you can ask the panelists. But before we get to that, I just want to thank all of you guys on stage. I mean, seriously, I just learned so much from each and every one of you guys.
Thanks, Zohaib.
So I'll let you all, raise your hand or whatever, and then we'll come down. All right, so we got a question right there. Ladies first. Sorry, bro. We got you next.
Actually, can you give him? Okay. No, she wants you.
She Uno reversed you, bro. Now you got to remember the question.
Assalamu alaikum. So I'm a senior in high school, and I think one thing that I've heard a lot, regardless of the industry or sector that you're in, there's a big emphasis on disruption and innovation. So when you're working in others in your respective industries, this is a question for whoever, how do you, I understand how you on a personal level can balance innovation with integrity, sticking to the core moral values of the deen, but how do you urge others around you to do the same? If a lot of your work depends on, collaboration with others, how do you kind of create a community of that and a culture of that when not everyone, aligns with your ideals, I guess?
Oh, I'll use both. I'm just kidding. That's a really good question. I think if you are the founder and CEO and the leader of your company, you, by virtue of being in that role, you get to, I'll use the word dictate, because that's the word that comes to mind, what your company values and what you stand for are. And as you grow as a company, there will be people that will try to chip at those values and try to degrade them, but it's up to you to hold the fort. And I will say it comes down to you, what you're comfortable with. And people will leave because they don't align, and people will not do business with you because they don't align with you. And that's okay. Allah will give you something better.
Yeah, I think I have about 10 employees, and half of them became Muslim. So alhamdulillah.
I have something to add to your question. I think when we're often starting businesses, we think that we have to be innovative. Not necessarily, right? You don't always have to be innovative to start a business. I think integrity is a lot more important than innovation, because sometimes you're closing the gap in the market just from the integrity component of a business versus innovation. If you're doing right by you, you're doing right by what your beliefs are and your community, sometimes that takes you a lot further than you being the next innovative product in the market. So the community will always follow if you do right by them.
My question is directed more towards Farzi, but also the other content creators. I know you both have products, but you do content creation without a product. When you're like 35 or 40 and you're not Farzi anymore, and then
I'll always be Farzi.
The Gen Z people come up with new trends like 6-7, and then and when you're 40, there's going to be new terms. How are you, like a 40-year-old, doing 6-7 is not going to be relevant anymore. So in terms of like having products and like changing trends, how do you plan on staying relevant in terms of like ever-changing market of products, but also content creation where no product is involved? Thank you.
That's a good question. Well, first of all, if I'm 40 years old, still worried about 6-7, I'm doing something completely wrong. Yeah, I haven't really thought that far into the future, I'll be honest with you. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, the way that I interpret my lifestyle and everything that I do in terms of like the trends and like what goes viral and everything, it's really based off of like what really resonates with me. If I was 10 right now, you're not gonna see me, making content about what 25-year-olds could relate to. But I'm 24 making content that relates to 24-year-olds or, people, the youth, right? So my goal is always going to be, and I'm always gonna touch up on like the nuances of like the intention and the emotion, because that's what drives the actions. I'm always going to try to create or work on something that resonates with me deeply. I remember watching an interview of Mark Zuckerberg, right? The CEO of Facebook, or the one who created Facebook, right? And he said something where they asked, what's your biggest advice for people who are starting a business or just starting anything in general? And he said something so cliche that I almost kind of like passed by. I was like, yeah, he's just BSing, bro. This is something that everyone says. But then I really thought about it. I'm like, if this is something that he truly believes, then it makes sense. It's most people start businesses or create content for the outcome rather than the purpose. And so when you start a business solving a problem that means so deeply to you, or you create from a place that feels like there's so much resonation with you, I don't know if that's a word, but you get what I'm saying, then any barrier or test that Allah puts in your path, you are going to have the willpower to want to climb over, because it's more than just about money. It's more than just about trends. It's more than just about what's the viral next 6-7 meme, because that's not why I decide to create. Sorry. I genuinely enjoy what I do. And inshallah, if I can live to the age of 40, I will hope to continue doing what I enjoy. And that's the essence.
Any other questions? Oh, you got a question back there.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. So from a mindset perspective, if one is looking to either get into content creation or launch a business, whether it's, a physical product or whatever it is, how do you, or if you've gone through this, how do you get over the fear of potentially not just failing, but failing in front of your friends, your family, and or community?
All right, I'm gonna really quickly answer for my sake, and then everyone else can answer. But this might sound kind of bad, but once I realized that I was an American citizen and like welfare exists and all these other opportunities actually exist for us as well, I got over all the financial security like issues because I was like, oh, the worst that happens is I go on food stamps. Like I'll live in my parents' basement. Like my parents are here. We like majority of us are not immigrants anymore. A lot of us are like second generation. This does not apply to H-1B or immigrants. So like I apologize if this like is bad advice for you guys, but for the people that are citizens, like, yo, we can live the American dream. We can take way more risks than anyone else and we'll still survive. Like that's the blessing that we have in this country. So like if you have citizenship and all that stuff, like you are an American now, right? Yes, you have the heritage from the background, but you're an American. Take advantage of American resources and have that kind of entitlement that we all make fun of, right? You have it too, like low key. Like when I started to, this white dude told me, he's like, closed mouths don't get fed. He's like, ask for stuff, demand things. Once I started doing that, started making money. Before that though, I was just waiting for someone to like offer something, but yo, people ain't offering you like anything unless you ask for it. So that's my like 2 cents.
I'll be very brief because it's a small story. I don't think many people are going to relate to this, but when I got to, because you were talking about the fear of like failing in front of your family, in front of your friends, my whole life, that was the exact reason why I did not step out of my comfort zone, was because I was afraid of people's judgment. But I'll tell you something that I did that is, probably something that I wouldn't advise everyone to do. But it's like, first of all, you shouldn't care about what other people think, but you already know this. So how do we actually go about attacking this? On social media, ended up blocking my friends and family from seeing anything that I did. Not because I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing is bad and like I just don't, no. It's like, I was just afraid of their judgment. I got picked on and bullied a lot in my school and like that's probably where I got all this self-consciousness from. I just didn't have the ability at the time to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna go and create. I don't care who watches me. No, I was afraid. So what I did is I blocked them. And my parents didn't know that I was on TikTok until I had 500,000 followers. And my friends didn't know until I had 300K. Like my best friends, they didn't even know. I was just in my room. So sometimes you just have to block out the haters, And maybe not even just like metaphorically, literally, physically. Oh, it is the closest people. Your closest people are the ones who usually judge. And it's not because they don't like you. It's because they place themselves in your shoes and they ask themselves from their own self-consciousness, can I do it? And it's usually a no. So that's my story. And I don't know I'm not telling you to block anybody, but I'm just saying like, if you do what you can to do to keep pushing forward, lower that barrier of entry to action, make it as easy as possible to continue taking action regardless of what anyone thinks, and do that every single day. Inshallah, you'll find that success.
I think we tend to look at success stories and we tend to go too far beyond what's right in front of us, which is our deen. And in my opinion, that's the biggest unicorn in history. The Prophet ﷺ was a person who didn't read, and now if he was here today, he'd see 1 billion people following his message. And how many times did he, or was he about to fail in those early years? Badr was 300 versus 1,000. So I think we look a lot of other places for how to handle failure, and we should just look at our deen. That's one. The second thing is, I think failure as a term itself, that should be flipped, especially when you're building and you're founding. Failure isn't the end point, stopping is the end point, and not continuing is the end point. If failure is a lesson, it's always a lesson. What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? And then you learn that for the next one, and the next one, and the next one. I'll give a specific quick example. So we opened PAX in 2019, right before COVID. COVID really literally hit 6 months later. So imagine a new business losing 80% of their revenue overnight when they shut down everything, right? We could have stopped, could have failed. But subhanAllah, that was actually a blessing in disguise, because as a new business owner, I had never done anything in food and beverage before. I was a digital marketer, that was my entire career. But that allowed us to reset. But that could have been, I could view that as a failure, but no, I was able to reset and start from scratch and keep building. So how you think about failure is more important, I think, than the failure itself. And if you let failure be the end point, that's the actual failure.
Yeah, I think this is a really, really good question. So before you go on one of these ventures where either you're starting a business or you want to become a content creator, you have to be mentally prepared for the discomfort. And you have to be willing to sit in that discomfort. And if you're mentally prepared for it, it might make it easier. It's not going to make it easy, but it'll make it easier. It's going to weed out a lot of people that should not be in your life. Like I think earlier this morning, Yasmin Tadia talked about losing friends. I unfortunately have also had that experience where you're going to see who's really on your team and who's not. But also, there's something called the emotional cycle of change, and it's kind of like this, and then you reach this valley of despair where you think, okay, things are not going my way, I'm gonna fail. You have to push through that to see the success. So if you're not willing to sit in the discomfort, I don't recommend going on one of these ventures because it's necessary. But if you can do that, it's worth it. Otherwise, just block everybody.
So I think a lot of fear for people when they're first starting out in the social media space or just starting a business is that you compare your story to somebody who is successful. Everybody's success story is case by case, and it varies, right? What you may be doing is a lot different than what I am doing. How I'm building a platform is very different than how you're building a platform. And I think over the last 10 years, I think the market has shifted in ways where people look at numbers and like, oh, this person has so many followers, they must be making so much more money, right? Follower count does not equate to the money that you have in the bank, right? It's the community that you've built around whatever you're doing. So you could have, 500 followers for your product or your business, but that 500 could very well be those 300 conversions you're getting on a daily basis. That is a lot more than somebody who has 400,000 followers on Instagram, but they're barely hitting that benchmark every day. They're getting maybe 10 sales every day. So it just really depends on like how you view that, right? And I truly firmly believe that the biggest hurdle in your life is not going to be the outside factors, is always going to be fear. When you start anything, there's 4 things that you should worry about, and it takes delusion, part luck, part grind, and a whole lot of faith. And I think in whatever you do, if you are able to really take all of those 4 factors and put it into whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think there's a very famous guy named Lion of the Desert, Omar Mukhtar. And he had a very famous saying. He said that we will never surrender, we win or we die. Okay, and so I think for me, I have no fear of failure, have no fear of that, so, and I think that if you really want to be successful in life, you can't care what people think about you. You can't care about, you can't care about, failure, I guess, but for me, there's no concept of failure, alhamdulillah.
One thing that I love about Riaz is in his office, he puts a number, like a goal number every year, and he hits that goal. He's just like, dude, this number is how much I'm going to sell this year by the end of the year. So set a goal for yourself. That's like the whole, the event's purpose is focus, right? Without focus, you can't hit goals, and without a goal, you can't focus. Right? And whether that's spiritual, whether that's business, personal, right? Fitness, whatever it is, you got to set the goal and then you shoot for that. Just don't make the goal too crazy. Go year at a time, or 6 months at a time, or even day at a time, right? So that's one thing that I really like what Riaz does. I've been to his office. It's massive. And he was like, Zohaib, I'm going to sell the most freaking creatine that any company has sold on Amazon by the end of this year. And he might hit that number. I mean, what's the ranking for creatine? You guys are number 1 right now?
No. I think we're top 10.
Top 10. So inshallah, make dua for him. Support all the business owners that are here on stage, and support the other Muslim business owners that are outside. Please, because without you guys shopping from Muslims, we're not going to grow together and win together, to be honest. We are going to close it off. So if you guys have any questions for us, you can. We're going to be on the side, and then we're going to get ready for the next session. But thank you guys so much for coming out. Thank you guys for being on stage today.